our first speaker of today, we have Stuart Munton, who is the Chief for Delivery at And Digital. With over 2 decades of experience in IT and digital program delivery, Stuart focuses on accelerating value for customers and businesses. He's also a co-founder of Agile Reading Meetup Group and a coach and semi-retired player at his local rugby club, and is a lifelong Leicester Tigers fan. So I can imagine he loves a good scrum. So you've got me for 2 days. So please put your hands together, go crazy, and welcome Stuart onto the stage.
Lovely, thank you. So, good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here again. I was down here 2 years ago, and it was great, sunny, lovely beach party, which looks like it's going to be quite good for that tonight. Not too sure about the kind of stormy lightning boat party tomorrow, but we'll see on that. So, Stuart Munton, I won't do too much introduction myself because we've got a lot of stuff to cover, but again, this is me. I do have a different title now, but probably by the time I do this talk again, I'll probably have a different title again. I'm kind of the group CIO, but we like different words. There you go. So, talk we're talking about today is called the product confidence trap. It is very labyrinthy, yeah, and so I'll talk that through as I go through the kind of story. But what I also need you guys to be doing as well is, if you want to ask questions, because it's very short sessions, please chuck stuff on the Slido. I will go back through and answer all the questions on the Slido, so you can go back and get the answers. If we have time at the end, we will also do questions in Slido. There is only one Slido poll left in this, because there's not enough time to go through all of them, so there will be one point where I'm going to ask your opinion on some of the stuff, and then we'll do like a word cloud kind of thing, but it'll be on the same one of this. So if you get questions, chuck them on there. We will also going to do questions in the room as well. So anyway, these QR codes will come up later as well. So what's this about? What's the start of this story? So, show of hands, who has seen the film The Labyrinth? Okay. Cool. Those of you who haven't, you should, because it's amazing. So the reason this talk got linked to the Labyrinth is I was doing a version of this in Krakow. They do their conference in a cinema, so I kind of tenuously linked it to films. And then from that, it became all throughout this, because the Labyrinth is about a maze, it's about finding a way out of a maze, and I went like, you know what, actually that kind of ties quite nicely into the talk, which is about discovery and finding your way out of discovery traps, which is what the product confidence trap. So, for those of you who haven't seen the film, so The Labyrinth, 1986, Jim Henson film, amazing, loads of Muppets or Muppet-esque things. It's a bit scary if your kids are a bit little, when mine are shown them the first time, they were a bit terrified, and I'll show you one of the terrifying scenes in one of the screenshots on here, but it's still amazing. General premises of it, this is Sarah down here. Sarah is a 15-year-old girl. She wants to go to the mall, go to the parties, whatever she wants to do. She doesn't want to stay at home and look after her little stepbrother. So she wishes away her stepbrother. She wishes that the Goblin King will come and take him away. And the Goblin King, played by the amazing David Bowie, comes and takes the baby away. And so then starts the story of Sarah working through the labyrinth, okay? And so I'm going to tenuously link this film into the talk. You'll also understand what this is about in a minute as well, because that comes up as well. So at a high level, what is a product confidence trap? So it's a loop where you get stuck, you know? So you get stuck evaluating where you are. So evaluation is one of the kind of terms we're going to use a lot through this. It's where you're unsure you may have enough insight to move forwards. It's where you're concerned about the level of risk, and kind of you need to be confident. And so a confidence trap is making sure that you're not getting stuck at certain points. And what we're going to work through today is a framework. So go back one. So this is this. And did you recognize this as a toy from childhood? I had to go buy a new one because I'm sure I had one when I was a child, but again, I'm not quite a child anymore. And I realized, actually, this looks quite like the model that we at And Digital had made. And it's got circles, and it's got circles like this. And through this talk today, we're going to kind of rebuild this model, yeah, and so that kind of stuff. The model we put together, it's not unique, it's not magic, it's not any of those sorts of things. So most people are kind of happy with a double diamond. We went, okay, we need 3 diamonds at one point. Then we needed 4 diamonds. And then we said diamonds are a bit forwardy and not enough roundy. And so therefore we ended up with 4 circles, okay? So that's what it is. So the middle bit of this is effectively like a double diamond design council, but we kind of added on a strategy piece because actually you need to kind of know where you're coming from a strategy point of view and a delivery point of view. So we're going to go through each of these circles as we go through. So I'm going to describe what each of these kind of processes are and somehow tenuously link them to the labyrinth. But the main part of this talk is about actually, if you have a nice ideal world, you kind of nicely kind of wade through that, and it's sort of linear, but also circular at the same time because you need to go backwards to go forwards, all this kind of good stuff. But at some point, you might get stuck, and you might get stuck at a kind of strategy level. You might get stuck going, what do we need to do? Have we got enough confidence? Do we know that we've got enough confidence to go to the board and ask for £3 million to do Project Aardvark, yeah, whatever it is, yeah, whatever you're going to need to do. And so what the product confidence trap is being stuck there, going like, have we got enough confidence, okay? So it's about building confidence, it's about enabling constraints that kind of move you forward through that. So what should you get from this session? So we're going to talk about that product discovery model, so we're going to go through each of the sections in that. There is a link to Cynefin, so we're going to talk around enabling constraints. Hopefully people are fairly familiar with Cynefin. I used to talk about Cynefin years ago, and people go, I don't know what you're talking about, but most people do now, so I won't go too deep into that. But we're going to talk about how Cynefin has enabling constraints in the complex space, okay? So that's the kind of piece we're going to talk about. There is a quick Boyd loop at the end, just kind of help you to go, okay, how do I orientate into this and get into that stuff? And as I said, tenuous links to the film The Labyrinth. So that's what we're going to cover. And we've got quite a lot to get through, so I'm going to crack on. So, confidence. So, as I said, we're going to build up this model, which is our kind of confidence model as we go through. It's a metaphor, it's a physical prop, it's kind of useful. But if you imagine that is a process that you're going to go through, and again, you could go from left to right all the way through it, and it could all be perfect, and you build confidence as you go through, but actually you might go around loops, and you kind of go around loops and loops. In a perfect world, we do some stuff. We might do some strategy work, and we build some confidence, but we burn some time. And then in another perfect world, we then do some opportunity work, we do some solution work, and we do some delivery work. Hooray, we're super confident, everything's gone according to plan. But does this actually happen? Yeah? Does what we set out to do actually happen? And unfortunately, it doesn't. And so what really happened is we get delays, yeah? So we might have phase boundaries, you might have capital advisory boards, you might have people. So if you have to ask for £3 million at the end of that, is there a group of people that you have to ask £3 million for? Are they going to be immediately available to give you that money so you can then get on and start to do the next phases? No, and therefore you start to lose confidence between things. But you also lose time. So what was a nice kind of stepped thing, a nice kind of perfect world, we're going to go up, go up, go up, go up. You start losing time, you start losing confidence, because as you hand things over, so you may have a strategy team that's doing the strategy piece, they may hand stuff to another team, you lose confidence and baton passing and blah, 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 blah. So all the kind of stuff that goes with kind of handovers. And as you can see, we're sort of burning more time, and we're not getting to where we need to be in terms of confidence, okay? It's a model, yeah, so how much is the right amount of confidence? It's the right amount for you. So that we'll come on to that in a minute. But then there's all other kind of stuff. You kind of get things where you go back in loops and stuff, and loops are useful, but actually at some point you get stuck doing more and more and more loops. And so, as you can see, like, things take longer. Are you confident enough to make the decisions you need to make? And that's what we're going to talk about in terms of confidence traps, because you might get stuck doing the same phase again and again and again and again and again. And you may just go like, well, we need so much strategy, or so much opportunity, so much solution. And so you might get stuck doing the same thing again and again and again. And that's what we're going to talk about in terms of kind of breaking out of cycles that feel like that. So these are what we describe as confidence traps. So you're going, we're not sure we should move on. How do you make sure? We were talking about, over beers last night. Like 3 or 4 years ago, organizations were ready to take much more risks. Yeah, they were going, we will go and do things, we'll go and do that, let's try that. It's because interest rates were lower, people could borrow more money, organizations could borrow more money, so therefore things could get done. Now everyone goes, yeah, but have you got the actual proof for that? What is that? Show me that. Data-driven, yeah? Data-driven generally meant, in the olden days, meant, okay, good, I'm not using gut feel, but I've got some good direction for it. Now it means prove it. And how can you prove it if the thing you're doing doesn't actually exist? So that's what we're going to talk about. So because we got this, but we'd actually like to have gone there, yeah? Because how do we get to being confident? So that's the kind of theory bit of the model about how we get through kind of confidence. So this is where we're going to try and work out how do we get through some of these traps. So I said I'd kind of jam in a bit about Cynefin in here. I'm a big Cynefin fan and big fan of like Dave Snowden's work in general. So go and, if you don't, I'm not familiar with Cynefin, go and look it up and go and work on it. It's great. So, but from what we're going to talk about, there is stuff that lives in the chaotic space. You just need to kind of go and deal with this stuff. Yeah, like you don't have a kind of model. There's no kind of constraints. There's sort of decoupled kind of constraints in that kind of space. So that stuff just happens. There's stuff that lives in the clear space, which you know how to deal with. You should be able to build out a standard operating procedure that tells you how to do those things. And stuff that's clear, fine, cool, do that. Yeah, that's how you kind of break out of cycles of this. There's stuff that's complicated, and complicated requires a nice model, yeah? And if it's complicated and you've got the right expertise, the right skills, the right knowledge, you can do that. So a complicated thing will kind of work through there. The bit we're going to talk about is more in this complex space, yeah? So stuff where you've got need enabling constraints, you've got kind of loosely coupled kind of connections. And so this is where all of these circles live, because you can go round and round and round. There's no perfect answer for them. And so what you need to consider, one more click, is enabling constraints. Yeah? And so again, I'm not going to go deep into kind of Cynefin and stuff. You can go and read all kind of stuff about that, but we're going to reference this part of Cynefin. What are types of enabling constraints that help you to break out of cycles? And that's the Cynefin-esque bit of this, because we're mainly in that space. If stuff is super clear, cool, crack on, do your standard operating procedure. If you've got experts who understand exactly how to do this stuff, and it's complicated, cool, go and do that. If it's chaotic, you should just be doing, yeah? There's no thinking in that kind of stuff, do, resolve it kind of stuff. But it's that complex space where most of this thinking process kind of gets stuck. That's where the product confidence trap lives, and that's where we're going to be thinking about, okay? So, we need to think about the context. So the context of what you're looking at and how you're thinking about stuff. So, back to the labyrinth. So this little character comes up very early in the film. So Sarah gets her way into the labyrinth, and this is one of the first creatures she meets in the labyrinth, inside. And she asks this little creature, which is the right way to go? Should I go left or right? And he goes, you should go right. Definitely go right. And she goes, okay, good, I'll go right. And she heads off to the right, and off she goes. Because afterwards, he then goes, oh, you didn't want to go left, because that would have taken you straight to the Goblin King, which is exactly where she wanted to go, okay? So because she didn't set the context of where she wanted to go, she didn't know where she was going. And the little worm was trying to save her. The little worm didn't want to go see the Goblin King. So therefore, you need to set context. Don't take things for granted, because actually the advice of a small worm might be the thing that saves you. So, right, I said we use these. So here we go. First section. So now we're going to talk about strategy discovery. And strategy discovery is that kind of first cycle in this, the first circle in this piece. So we are looking to learn business strategy and capabilities. We're looking to align on business success factors. So that's this focus is about why, yeah? So this is a kind of a why space in terms of, and it might be business strategy, it might be product strategy, it might be delivery, whatever kind of level of strategy you can think about it, the model is intended to abstract to the level you're thinking at. So a whole load of why that exists in this. So what do we do during this? So we're going to answer why we're spending the energy. So why are we bothering to do this? We're going to question the direction you want to go in. We want to evaluate. Again, evaluate is one of my favorite words at the moment. I also run an AI team, and we talk about evaluation. Human evaluation, super important. And I know the talk you've just been in for the keynote is about AI and ethics. Humans in the cycle, evaluating things. Which bit is good, which bit is not good. Okay? And those are the sorts of things that people need to be involved in, so evaluating things. But the aim of this process is to define the overall business customer value. So you've got a strategy piece. Quite often, so I work for a consultancy, quite often we go to an organization and they go like, are you clear on your strategy? You go, yeah, totally clear on our strategy, 100% clear on our strategy. What they've actually got is a mission statement and some values. It's not really a strategy, yeah? And so then you go, cool, okay, well, let's go on and do the next things. And can you give us your strategy? And they go like, well, it's painted on the wall there. And go like, if it's painted on the wall, it's probably not a strategy. And so we check these things in terms of kind of doing strategy discovery to make sure that we're kind of covering some of this stuff. But what happens if you get stuck doing this? Because you guys might be doing this on behalf of your organizations. You might be doing this as consultants for other organizations. There may be some, is anybody here from McKinsey? Okay, I mean, people, I'm not having a go at McKinsey's in any way whatsoever, but like because they're busily out there doing this stuff, because they produce loads of this, yeah? And you may basically have to read through some of their stuff and turn it into actionable stuff that's going to go on. The McKinsey stuff is great. It just, that takes this sort of community to kind of convert it into actionable reality, yeah? So which is still strategy discovery. So what do you do if you get stuck, okay? So things we do, again, using business model canvas. So these are just some concepts. There's dozens and dozens of these things. Business model canvas is really useful. Wardley mapping, as a strategy point of view, I do lots and lots of Wardley mapping. Value stream mapping into Wardley mapping, hyper useful for strategy. Talk to your stakeholders. It sounds ridiculous, yeah? Like, actually talk to them, because like you're going like, well, the CEO said they want this, and then I talked to all these other people, and they said something different, and they said the CEO is a psychopath. Okay, good, right. So, okay, good. Talk to your stakeholders. And it sounds ridiculous going to talk to things, but also at this point, you're maintaining parallel options. Yeah, so you're maintaining lots of different things. But you need enabling constraints, and enabling constraints in this sort of thing is set time boundaries. And this is because in the chaotic space, there's lots of stuff. You could do an infinite amount of strategy. Yeah? I mean, like if you look at how much gets paid to consultancies, you could see how some of that could go on for £5 million worth of strategy for 500 slides, yeah, and type of things. And all that, they have lots and lots of this stuff, and it's great. But actually, how do you break out of those cycles? Do some enabling constraints. So set a time boundary, set a cost boundary. Make sure your sponsor knows when the thing is and how that's going to sort out. So enabling constraints are to help you to say, actually, there's a million different complex things we could do, but we're only going to do that much of it. So basically a strategy spike, okay? So enabling constraints start to bind your spikes. In the end, what we want from this phase, we're going to do mapping. So mapping kind of customer, business, journey, setting direction, having discussion, to highlight the adjacent possibles. And the adjacent possibles are kind of the cool, interesting, parallel things you may want to get done. And again, this might be a product strategy, it might be a company strategy, it might be a multi-year organizational change strategy. Whatever it is, these are useful things. Okay, so that's the first cycle. Once we've done that, we want to kind of make us kind of step in the right direction, yeah? So steps towards the solution. Back to the labyrinth, obviously, to get some wisdom. So Sarah meets this person who's called the wise man, and he's got a chicken coming out of his head for some reason, yeah? But again, that may be why he's so wise. And his wisdom to Sarah and Hoggle is the kind of biggish goblin thing that goes around with Sarah most of the film, is go backwards to go forwards. Okay? And sometimes you need to go backwards to go forwards. You need to think about how you might need to retrace your steps. This is why a double diamond always feels a bit too always forwards, yeah? Because actually this is why we move to circles, because circles are slightly more easier to kind of iterate round. So sometimes you may need to go back. You might get stuck, but sometimes you may still need to go back. And this is one of the questions that we have with clients when we talk to them. We're going like, how much strategy have you done? Okay, we've done all our strategy. Show me. Okay, well, okay, we can't show you. Okay, like, articulate it, videos. What is it? How does it get articulated? And you go, oh, okay, so maybe we need to go back and do a bit of strategy before we can come back into working out what your opportunities and your solutions are. Yeah, so if you don't have the strategy, you don't have the grounding of where you are. So sometimes you need to go back to go forwards. Good, another circle, good. So we're going to now talk about the next cycle, which is opportunity discovery. So we've kind of gone through strategy, and we might go around that a couple of times and then come back into opportunities. So in opportunities, we're thinking about empathizing with our customer needs, defining potential opportunities. Again, there's a lot of what that comes into this. Again, we talked about kind of parallel opportunities and parallel options in the previous phase, but a lot more of that what comes out at this point in the model. So what we're going to do in here, so uncover high impact, sorry, it's really hard to read from there, apologies, I'll read them. Uncover high impact customer needs, empathize with your customer needs, refine the number of potential options, because potential options are reasonably infinite, because you can always have really good ideas. There's nothing There's no limiting number of ideas. I mean, I imagine most of the work you guys do, like, you're not limited in number of ideas, it's which are the good ones, yeah? Which are the ones we want to hypothesize and test for? How do we kind of move through those? And so that's the refinement process. Because what you're trying to do is prioritize the highest value items. What are the things which are going to give us the biggest bang for the buck, yeah? How do we accelerate time to value? Yeah, what are we going to do to kind of move through this? But again, you can also get stuck here. So in this phase, you go, oh, like more and more opportunities, more and more opportunities. Yes, which one do we do? So what do you do? So what do? User interviews. We've done our stakeholder interviews in the previous thing. I'm going to talk to them about actually how much money you want to spend on this, how long should it take. Actually talk to users, actually talk to customers. Customer journey analysis, look through the customer journeys that people are working through. Again, this is kind of like the kind of bread and butter from a product point of view. I use a lot of domain-driven design because, again, my background is sort of somewhat into IT, somewhat into dev, somewhat into product, somewhat into delivery. Using domain-driven design at the strategic level, so setting out domain models, really helpful. It also helps then to kind of for that to kind of like cascade down through from the strategic DDD into the tactical DDD. So therefore, the class that you're calling something in the code is the same word that your CEO is using. And getting to that ubiquitous language is super useful. Yeah, and so therefore, really go and have a look at domain-driven design. So a combination of Wardley mapping, domain-driven design, and team topologies, which we'll talk about. Go and look at Susan Kaiser's work. It's amazing. It is absolutely groundbreaking because it's basically the convergent point between all those two things. Her book was due out soon, but it keeps being delayed, unfortunately. But go and look for her talks on that. It's really good. So domain-driven design and assumption mapping. I almost changed this morning to dysfunction mapping. So my friend Mike's dysfunction mapping is great. You should use dysfunction mapping as well. But dysfunction mapping kind of almost incorporates a whole different set of things. So I've left it as assumption mapping, but also go look at dysfunction mapping as well. So this is kind of how you kind of break out of these things. But again, you need some enabling constraints. So you need to cap the amount of effort you're going to do. You need to think about how much paid external research you're going to do, because you want to go and ask people about stuff, and you don't want to just ask all the people inside your organization, because if you only ask the people inside your organization, all you ever get is what we've got, yeah? Because you'll ask like an echo chamber kind of thing. And then think about your stakeholders for direction. So we've gone through strategy. We thought about opportunities. What we're looking to do is increase decision velocity at this point. So this is what someone asked, how much confidence should I have? I'm going like, well, how much confidence do you want? A coached response rather than actual response. But for me, 70%. Because is it, at this point, 100% clear what we're going to do, what we're going to make, what the outcomes are going to be? No. Yeah, there's hypotheses, there's tests, there's guesses, there's all that kind of stuff that are coming into this. So therefore, I've got to feel a bit more confident making a decision at this point, because that's me. I'm leading, I am evaluating, I'm consuming, I'm synthesizing, I'm doing all the different things which you guys all do. And actually, the question, are you 100% confident? No, because I can only be 100% confident when I've actually done it. Yeah, when it's actually finished and the customers are giving us money for the thing we've made, and therefore I'm confident. And is it 100% then? No, because some people still don't like it, and therefore we have to refine it. And so therefore, moving from being 100% confident to being comfortable at 70% confident is really important. And insert your own number. Yeah, you may work in critical systems. There's a load of kind of MOD people down here. Like they may be making things which go into space. I don't know, who knows? Yeah, like there's different levels of confidence, yeah, depending on what you do. But the aim of this is you can't really expect everyone to be at 100% confidence. So, marking the route forward. So how do we go on? So back to the labyrinth. So Sarah has a lipstick with her, which any 1986 15-year-old apparently does. And so therefore, she goes into the labyrinth and goes, I'm quite clever. I'm going to mark where I'm going. She kind of writes these little arrows on the squares. But then these little goblins come up and they pick up the tiles and move them around and just change them in different directions, which is really annoying. But it's not fair, yeah? And tough. That's life, yeah? So this is the environment we work in. People will move your things. Your best laid plans will be smashed to pieces by something. So Mike Tyson's best quote, so everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Yeah, so I mean, like, he's the philosopher of our times, obviously, but again, it's not fair, and that's the world we live in. You've got to be able to adapt. This is why they are circles, because you can go backwards. Yeah, you can go backwards to go forwards. Cool. Next one. Ooh. There we go. keeps my brain ordered, this. It's like nice, it kind of builds up, and I've got to go that one. So we're now going to talk about solution discovery. So we've talked about strategy, we've talked about opportunities, we're now going to ideate in those, kind of get to kind of like the better ideas, better prototypes, getting things that people can touch and feel and mess with and do stuff with is really, really important, because you may have a great idea, your team may have a great idea, your close user group may have a really good idea, but until you get some things which go a little bit wider and a little bit out there, you won't know. So this is going to helping us design and focus towards the how. So type of things we're going to do in this phase, we're going to explore and rank being particularly important versus prioritize, because previous ones were prioritize, high, medium, low, bucketing, blah, 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 t-shirt size, whatever. Rank, one number 2, one number 3, yeah? So ranks different to priority. So rank multiple solutions. Validate them, yeah? So you're thinking about the humans evaluating stuff in the process. Show the value you are providing, because again, like, you might disappear off into a hole and build the best thing in the world. This might age people. Does anyone here remember Netscape? Yeah. And does anyone remember what happened to that? They went into a perfect hole. Yeah, they went like, you know what? So for those of you young enough to be young, Netscape absolutely monstered the browser market. Yeah, like to the point where like Microsoft were going, well, we don't really want to be involved in this because it looks a bit competitive. We don't want to do that. Netscape went like, yeah, we got this. Between Netscape 6 and Netscape 7, and this was mid-90s-ish. They went away and tried to make the best thing in the entire world in the browser market. But unfortunately, because they took 4 years to make it, Microsoft came along, new version of IE, new version of IE, new version of IE, ate their lunch, okay? And Netscape no longer exists as in the same organizational function. A lot of the stuff that's in Mozilla Foundation is where all that stuff went, but it's a really interesting story to go and look at about how perfect destroyed a company, yeah, being perfect. And we want to present our potential options, because we want people to look at it. We want people to go, yeah, cool, that's really good. But what do we do if we get stuck? Okay, so what are we using here? So cost-benefit analysis, and it does sound a bit project-y, yeah? But again, show of hands, who here is either a project manager or works with project managers? Okay, cool. Which is cool. I mean, I have no anti-project manager thing. I mean, there was a period in my life, in like my Agile evangelism back in 2005, 6-ish sort of time, where everyone wandered around going, we don't need project managers anymore, we don't need any of that. Now everyone's wandering around going like, Jesus, who's looking at cost? Like, who's doing that? Has anyone got a risk log? Because I've got these people coming and shouting at me. Can we scrum a risk log for you? I don't know. Blah. Anyway, so project manager. I started as a project BA, a dev BA project manager in my early career, and then we're finding a lot at the moment. Project management skills are really, really valuable, especially when the world has changed from build shiny things to how much money is that going to save on the bottom line. Yeah, that conversation has changed dramatically over the last 2 or 3 years, yeah? And so project management skills are really useful. Do some lightning demos. I like kind of design sprint stuff. I got into design sprints fairly early, so I love bits and pieces of them. Lightning demos are good for me. Do some sketching, draw some things. Yeah? Like actually get some people together, do stuff. Do some tests. And it's A/B, it's multivariate testing. Lots of variant testers. And again, I tend to work on a kind of e-com digital space, and therefore we can test things probably easier than those working in firmware and like manufacturing and stuff. The cost of software tests is quite low, yeah, because it's soft, it's not hard, yeah, and so therefore I don't have to buy a machine or a thing. I don't have to make some new chips. So therefore, if you can, do lots of variant testing, yeah, so work through those. And we get through this, and we need to set enabling constraints. Like, I love design sprints. Go and run some design sprints at this point. Go, cool, we can go and do this. You can do a week-long design sprint, you can do a 4-day one, you can do a 1-day one. There's a really nice Miro template out at the moment. Jake Knapp, who's one of the co-authors of design sprints, go and look at his Miro template. It's great. It's got a talk track that runs through it. It basically describes all the stuff that was in the design sprint book, but also in the new upcoming book. So think about budget, think about team direction. So I said there will be some, sorry, I've got one more slide. So, and this is where we're getting to earlier. So perfect is the enemy of good enough. Yeah, this is what happened to Netscape. This is what happens when you go so detailed into it. Because people want value now. Accelerate time to value. done is better than perfect. Facebook adage number 3, this one's from before that, and all that kind of stuff. So think about what you're doing in terms of your solutions. Let me just see how we're doing on time. Okay, good. So I want you guys now to tell me what you do, because this is really helpful for me at this point. I do a little bit of market research, guerrilla marketing on the stage. So if you go to this QR code, it's the same one as you had before. What I want you to do is tell me what techniques you use for kind of opportunity solution discovery. What kind of things do you use? And when that reloads, they'll pop up on here. So same QR code up there. So I want you to tell me what you guys do. Nothing. Nice. Nice. TDD. Prototypes. Good. Good. Come on. More. I like a bit of story mapping. I haven't done that for a little while, which is good. Concept testing. Nice. So nobody's put anything about AI yet, surely. Surely you must all be using AI in every single facet of your lives. Good. Yeah, thank you. Fake door test, yes, and some more AI, and some crazy 8s. Crazy 8s is just good. I can remember doing some crazy 8s with a board at a large insurance company, and they were going like, I don't know why I'm drawing things. I'm going like, me drawing things to get creative things. And okay, let's all do it. Let's just go through the process. And they loved it. And so therefore, they now, as a board, do crazy 8s when they're doing strategy discussions. Rather than what they used to do is they used to go off for an offsite for 2 days, and some people would go and facilitate them do stuff. They now get 15 minutes, draw some stuff, and work out, okay, cool, that's a good idea. Lovely. So, good. So you guys familiar with lots of this stuff. Do these things. This is the kind of stuff that you kind of need to be doing. Because we have a big toolkit of do these things in the company. We share that with our clients. We do things. We teach people. We do all that kind of stuff. But actually, working out what's right for you is the right thing. Yeah? And so some of these tools are super helpful and super useful. Good. But can your customers be trusted? Okay. So back to the labyrinth for this. So there's a scene in the labyrinth. Sorry, the res on this is a bit low. There's a scene in the labyrinth that same arrives at a door. One of these doors leads to certain death. One of them leads to the Goblin King. Cool, she wants to go to the Goblin King. One of the people is going to always lie. One of them is going to tell the truth, okay? Again, I'm not saying your clients or your customers are always lying, but they don't tell the truth either, yeah? And so strangely, and again, if you watch the film, and I watched this film 3 times in the last year because I've been giving a version of this talk for the last year, and I can't watch it most times before. She gets the answer right, yeah? She does get the answer right. The way to do the tool door test is you ask one of them if the other one would say this about that door. Yeah, there's a whole load of maths, and you can go and do it. It's different to the goats and doors one because that's a probability one, but this is the truth door one. It's an interesting one. So, but unfortunately, she gets it right, walks through the door, and falls down into this pit. Yeah, this is the terrifying thing for your children. Yeah, because it's really scary. So basically, falls down, and all these hands come out and kind of grab her. Yeah, and then start making like faces and voices and stuff. It's terrifying. But weirdly, I had to go and look into the background of why she got it right, but also then fell down a hole. Yeah, and it comes back to her kind of like hubris. Yeah, she goes, this is a piece of cake. Yeah, and apparently she says that phrase 3 times in the film, and every time she says it, something terrible happens. Yeah, and she says it at this point. So basically, the maze goes, right, you may have got it right, but screw you. you're going down a terrifying pit. And that's what happened to her. So she goes down there. So truth or not truth, but actually hubris is also an enemy of us as well. So you will get confident, but you can't ever be 100% confident. You know, that's impossible. It's an impossible place to be, but you've got to be confident enough to kind of help you make quick decisions. Plus also your customers and your users are going to lie to you as well. Ooh, cool. I'll speed up a wee bit. So we get to this kind of final circle in here, and then we're talking about refining our potential solutions and building practices and approach to deliver. So this is in the kind of delivery discovery space. And what we find in delivery discovery is that quite often people just go, okay, well, I've got my solution, I'll just start building it. But actually, how do you build it? Yeah, and what are you going to do? And so in this, we're looking at the who, where, when, but also the why, what, and how get redone. And so I talked about project management. There's a load of project management-y sort of things that come into this space. And Agile delivery lead and Agile technical project lead and all the other kind of confluations of words that we all exist in, okay? So all of that stuff comes up in here. So we're going to demonstrate the product and it's feasible to deliver. Because if it's not feasible to deliver, it doesn't matter how great an idea and shiny it is, we can't really do it. So if it's not feasible, yeah. We want to close assumptions and check dependencies because we've got to make sure we can actually go and do this. Refine the product backlog for delivery. It sounds like, oh, that sounds like, Stuart, you're doing a load of upfront design and delivery. Well, yeah, maybe we are a little bit, but actually we need to know some of this because if we don't know where we're going, we haven't mapped out what we're doing, if we haven't done strategy mapping, Wardley mapping, we haven't done those sorts of things, we don't know where we're going, so therefore we don't know what we're doing. And therefore, how can I commit to do something if I don't know where I'm going? And also if I don't know where I am. Explain and share the intent with the team. Because quite often, as you go through this process, you might have like a couple of people doing strategy, you might have a few more people doing opportunity and solution, but when you get towards the delivery point, quite often it explodes into numbers of humans, yeah? So as in, like, you get a load more developers, you get a load more kind of analysts, you get a load more people. So you may have had a kind of nice, tight group of kind of 2, 5, 10, 15 people doing this, and then suddenly someone goes, right, we're going into safe PI planning. You've now got 120 people. Go and get them to do this. And this is the kind of intent I mean at this point, yeah? So what do you need to be able to tell these people so they can get the vision and move along with you? But, again, what happens if you get stuck? So, look at empirical forecasting. So most work you do will be similar in some sense to things you've done in the past. There will always be variations in it, and this is kind of one of the other places I use Cynefin a lot, because basically I use Cynefin from a kind of checking myself in terms of estimating models. So if I've done it before, and I know I've done it before, it's clear, and my estimates are going to be quite nailed on. Yeah, my forecasting is going to be okay. If it's complicated, I need some experts to do it, and therefore, if I don't have the experts and I give it some numpties, they will get it wrong and they'll do it differently. If it's complex, then actually, there's no perfect way of doing it, and they're going to have to go around different things. And you shouldn't be, and you should be using chaotic for kind of innovation space. So look at empirical forecasting. The other point about a Cynefin estimating kind of concept is the work you're doing will be a mix of all of those things. Yeah, all of the Cynefin domains. Your work is scattered amongst all of them. Do not get complacent. Going, we've done a good discovery, so everything is now clear. It's not. Yeah, what you've done is move more stuff out of complex into complicated, more towards clear. But it's still not all clear, yeah? There will still be experimentation you have to do from a complex point of view. There will still be technical spikes you have to do with a new technology. There's a new partner to onboard, which, and God, they speak a different language. What are we going to do? They work in a different time zone. How does that work? Blah, 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 yeah? So there's a whole load of those sorts of things. But look at empirical forecasting. Look at the skills and capabilities. Yeah, like, do you actually have the skills to do the work? Yeah, I mean, it sounds stupid, but like, again, more project and program manager type of things. Think about your team topologies. And I don't mean you have to have done every single bit in team topologies, but if you do, you'll generally find you're designing good organizational structures. It's good stuff. It's based on kind of evidence. It's based on doing the interesting stuff. The interaction models on their own, even if you take out the team design, the team topology stuff, the interaction model kind of structure in team topologies is really worth doing. But again, if you do a mix, again, this is where Susan Kaiser's work comes in, a mix of Wardley mapping, domain-driven design, and team topologies, for me, that feels like one of those kind of secret sauce things where you wouldn't expect it to kind of magically work, but it does. And also do cost forecasts. And this is more pertinent now than ever because actually people are going to challenge you on how much things cost. So, and all the way through this, again, we've talked about enabling constraints as we've gone through. We set a number of sprints, some sort of CapEx allocation. You've got to do something to control this because otherwise you could continue on these things forever and continue to go, are we right? Oh, okay, we need to be at 97% confident. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, like, you just need to have enough confidence. You need to set some constraints which will allow you to move forwards. So, faster feedback at all stages, incremental and iterative delivery. That sounds a little bit agile, doesn't it? So go and be agile. Sorry, that's what maybe I should change that slide to. So you're working out how you're going to get this stuff done, but also, is it feasible to get done through here? So, final section. So learning the rules. This is Sir Didymus. So my favorite character, because he's so cool. He rides around on a English sheepdog. It's amazing. He has the job of guarding a bridge. And that bridge, he has one instruction. No one shall pass unless I permit it. And he basically fights everybody off. Fights them all off. And then basically Sarah steps back and goes, okay, so we're not going to be able to defeat you because you're some sort of knight, ninja, fox thing. But actually, can you give us permission to cross the bridge? And apparently no one had ever asked him, yeah? Because his rule was to not let anyone across the bridge without his permission. Did they say you couldn't give permission? No. So you need to know the rules you need to work through, understand the rules and the boundaries within your organizations that you can work to. And then, unfortunately, the bridge disintegrates, as anything would. But luckily, they've got a magic rock monster called Ludo, who basically pulls on a load of rocks out of the pit of eternal stench, because you don't want to go in there, obviously. So what I'm saying from here is you need to understand the rules in your organization and leverage them. There will be budget, CapEx, blah, 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 PMO, things and stuff and controls and everything else that goes with it. There will be governance, there'll be structures. Know them, know the rules of the game you play, recognize it as a game, play the game. You can bend the rules. There's a whole kind of shuhari thing you could throw into it at some point. But if you don't understand the rules and you just go, I don't like the rules, yeah, you're going to lose a game at that point. Yeah, so understand the rules and use them to your leverage. So, final section. Yay, good. So as I said, I would give you a Boyd loop. So a little loop to kind of think about this, like an OODA loop, Boyd loop. This is a simplified version. Everyone goes, oh no, there's a really much more complicated version of this. Yes, there is. This is a simplified one. So what you're going to do first is you're going to observe. You're going to work out where you are. And like, are we actually doing strategy discovery? Are we doing opportunity discovery, solution discovery, delivery discovery? Where are we? Yeah, observe. We're going to orientate. You're going to work out how confident you are. Yeah. So are we super confident that the people who told us they had a strategy but can't provide us that strategy document, how do we know where we're going? How do we know that why is valid? Yeah. So we're going to orientate, understand confidence. We're going to look for confidence traps. We're going to look for kind of things which we talked about through this talk, and we're going to work out kind of models, methods, techniques to kind of move us past those. And then we're going to act. But we're going to act within enabling constraints, because remember, this stuff all lives in that complex space. Because it lives in that complex space, it means you have to bind it. You have to put those enabling constraints around it. And through this, the aim of this is to make shorter leaps of faith. Yeah. So strangely, this came from one of the other films that was in the original version of this, which was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. You know, you had to kind of step out onto the thing and he does that kind of stuff. So that was where this sort of came from. So, but it still stands. So this is what you're looking to do. So that is the model. That is the process to apply the model. That is a lot of kind of labyrinthy sorts of things. And that is also the end of the story. So someone asked me, have I got a picture of David Bowie in the tights? And I said, yes, I do. And said, like, oh, good. So there you go. Yeah, David Bowie in the tights in a very kind of like crazy Escher-esque environment. Yeah. So end of the film, Sarah gets to the end. She has this kind of weird kind of dream party where she becomes like the queen, goblin queen. She's 15, he's 40, it's a bit weird. All that kind of stuff goes on. But then in the end, she kind of disappears back. Goblinkin gives the baby back. Everything is good. Hurrah. End of film. So, cool. That is me done. We'll come back to the questions in a second. Thank you for your attention. I would like to call out a couple of people who kind of worked on the model with me. So Craig Haslam, Greg Damford, and Jamie Nicholson, all from And Digital, kind of working on the model. If anyone wants to connect to me on LinkedIn, that's me at the bottom. If you want to give me some feedback onto the Agile on the Beach one, that's the one on the top. But otherwise, thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Stuart. That's absolutely awesome. So, questions from the audience. We have time for about 2 questions. Any hands up for Stuart? Yes, sir.
Excellent talk. Thank you. I have kind of a similar career as you had, and I remember all those handovers back in the days. How do you look at handovers in these phases?
Yeah. Avoid them at all costs, but if you can't, make sure that there's kind of like reasonable boundary documents. And the ones that I tend to use are stuff like Roman Pichler's product canvas. So therefore, the product canvas lives at a certain level, and then the other canvases live at different levels. But make sure that that kind of boundary is well understood and documented and visualized. But it also happens at the kind of the technical level. So making sure that the kind of API contracts are kind of well understood. So I try to avoid them as much as possible is the answer. But if you can't avoid them because your organization may have chosen to do design in London, to do project management and program and product management in Swindon, and then development in Bangalore, then you have to deal with those things, okay? Make sure that everyone understands if there is a baton, that they know there is a baton. I know this end, they know that end, and we agree that as a contract as we go through.
One last question from the audience.
Hi, are you able to name the insurance company you did Crazy Eights with?
I couldn't possibly name them, but they're very yellow.
Thank you.
Well, that was a really quick question. So who's supposed to put their hand up a moment? There you are, madam.
Thanks. I just wondered if there was anything you do differently in terms of your process when it comes to working on data products, as opposed to sort of, I guess, e-commerce or other types of products.
The model is abstracted to such a level that the model works and all the different things. The techniques change below it, and so when we are doing kind of data work, the modeling processes, the things I recommend in here are more kind of digital product focused, but we do also have a set which are more data product focused as well. And so you basically change some of the modeling things over. So you're basically doing data dictionaries, you're doing kind of conceptual mapping type of things rather than doing journey mapping. And so the model still stands, as in like the circly model, but the things you do in them are the things which we change. Because then we can go, actually, cool, have you done discovery? What type of discovery? And we can have a discovery discussion which works with our data team, plus also our software engineering team, plus our AI team, because they're using the same sort of discovery model.
Thanks.
Cool. All right, well, that's all we have time for. So again, thank you very much, Stuart. Another round of applause.
Okay.